Welcome back. Today we're going to spend a couple minutes with the CCZ Harmony. So this one actually looks pretty cool. I think the faceplate and the little window, the little faceted window is actually pretty cool looking. Definitely kind of a nice design for a $20-something set. Back has kind of a smoked bottom, so you can actually see the dynamic driver. I don't know where the balanced armature is, but it's somewhere in there. And this is a CCZ set, so you do get the rubberized wing for those of you who are fans of the wing. This is the box. This is the black stringy cable. This one will tangle on you. I kind of use it once, and then I roll it up, and it gets tangled, and then I never want to use it again. So, but kind of what you expect at that price point. It's not going to be a super cable, but they could definitely step up their cable game because that one's a little bit thin. So what is this one? It is a $26 single dynamic driver, one balanced armature hybrid. I could probably find the balanced armature. It's probably in there somewhere. But who should buy this particular set? And you can kind of see by the graph here. This is actually pretty close to Rose Finch. This is a really, really heavy bass shelf that runs kind of right into the center of the mids, and then they poke up the balanced armature to make it more forward over the bass shelf, and they kind of poke this one about as much as they could. I mean, I think that's kind of fine if you have a balanced armature and you want to kind of push it forward and, I don't know, do something with it, but that's kind of what they did. So obviously this one is for people who are looking for a heavy bass set with some vocals. This one definitely has that sound, which is pretty much a lot of bass and this little bit. So you get vocals over this bass shelf. That's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. So how is the Basshead balance on this particular one? So they gave it a Basshead bass shelf, but then really pushed the upper mids a little bit too hard here. And those are going to be really hard to enjoy at higher volumes. Especially with the 5K peak. For those of you who are sensitive to 5K, that's going to be a little bit intense. Even though there is this monster amount of bass here, this will still kind of get at you after a little while, exactly what happened to me. So this one is nice to look at, but I wouldn't want to use it for too long. And I would say generally that description of this lots of bass and vocals is generally true, but if your track is spread out a little bit further up range, maybe like EDM, it tends to work better. And definitely if you get away from these two peaks right here and you have EDM or some kind of music that you're listening to that is spread out further into the upper range and not so bound up and concentrated in that area, combine that with a nice bass shelf, and I thought EDM was actually pretty good on this set in that respect. But yeah, this was kind of a killer area there. So is there any advantage to the balanced armature on this one? I do think that the idea of having vocals over a heavy bass shelf, I think that tends to work a little bit better if you have a balanced armature. You just get a tiny bit more separation, but with a more affordable, cheaper style balanced armature, I think that's kind of a marginal difference and a marginal benefit to doing it. But I think the idea was right. So the bass, mainly it's just a lot of bass. You can kind of see this one. It is very close to Rose Finch. It's just a lot of sub bass, a lot of mid bass. I don't know why these guys keep on poking at the same bass shelf. It's one that was popular years ago, kind of even before Rose Finch came out. And if you look at the more modern versions of this, and even if you look at Castor, why was KZ's Castor a popular set? Because it poked this out into kind of a bulge. So you got kind of a heavier mid-bass style, really nice impact, but then you cleaned up the whole back end of it. You didn't have this kind of softer sub-bass end to it, or you do what KZ Saga does, and you do like the 45-degree angle glide, and you pull back the mid bass in, so you don't get that thickening of the mids, and you still have a nice sub bass. But those are the two modern versions of bass shelves that we see in the bassier, heavier sets. Doing this, bulging out the mid bass, so you're kind of maximizing mid bass and maximizing sub bass at the same time. It's something that was done in the past. It's just not as popular as it is today. It just happens to be, I guess, more popular with the KB ears, and the CCZs and the HC Sound use something kind of similar as well on White Snow. So yeah, I don't know what to say about this one. Ironically, it has too much sub bass and it really softens the impact. It looks a lot better on paper than it does, and that's generally why people have moved away from this style bass shelf. So the mids, again, quite far back as you would expect for the lower. The uppers push forward as much as they could do it. Much more harmonious with female vocals. Again, you have the balanced armature here. It'll actually, if you have those sharper female vocals, it'll kind of push them in place above the bass, and the two kind of sound a little bit like Harmony, but I don't know that with these two, it's pretty much going to sound the same no matter what set this is. KZ's Harmony or another set, but this heavy V shape tends to have the same kind of sound, especially in the same price range. So the treble, again, lots of lower. It's pretty much all there. Very much harder to hear the upper treble over the bass, exactly what I've been talking about on every one of these sets. Typical bass, upper mid V-shaped balance. And again, this one is even heavier because there's a balanced armature, but it is very much right here and right here with these two peaks. Everything else is sort of down a notch compared to these two things, and that's primarily where the V is, as opposed to having a V that carries out into a brighter style V shape. This one is very much centered in those upper mids. If you listen to tracks with that heavier bass, you do get a feel for that there is some extension there. There is a balanced armature that kind of carries out. That's a lot harder to hear, and it looks like it's on the graph. But as soon as you have any bass in your track, this whole bit kind of gets pushed under, and it's actually hard to hear, and it kind of struggles to be heard, is what it really sounds like in your ear. Stage, again, not really tuned for stage. This one is very much an in-your-head, Basshead style, kind of like all the other sets that I've talked about in this style. So that is what I got on CCZ Harmony. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.